So listen, there's been a lot of controversy over producer Pat Ford's middle name. That is nothing compared to the controversy over Rex Tillerson using a completely fake name to discuss climate change. You can't write this stuff. Disturbing and bizarre revelations about Donald Trump's Secretary of State, Russia friend, and fossil fuel CEO Rex Tillerson. This is going to sound bizarre to you, but it's been discovered that Rex Tillerson used a fake name. This is just the best. Wayne Tracker. Wayne Tracker is the fake name to discuss climate change while he was CEO of ExxonMobil. And as I've told you before, ExxonMobil as an organization had evidence dating back decades that their activities on our planet were terrible for our planet. And they covered them up for as long as they could. And these revelations relate not to the company, but specifically to Rex Tillerson. New York's Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, has now revealed that Rex Tillerson used an alias email address while at ExxonMobil to send and receive information related to climate change and some other matters. And again, the name he used is Wayne Tracker. Wayne is Tillerson's actual middle name. Okay, so that part, we know where it comes from, but Tracker reminds me of the Simpsons episode where Homer changes his name to Max Power because it just seems to carry weight. Wayne Tracker strikes me the same way.
I mean, it's not Carlos Danger, but it's pretty good as an alias goes.
And this is actually all related to the investigation into whether ExxonMobil misled shareholders and the public about climate change. We have a quote from Alan Jeffers, who's Exxon's spokesman, saying the email address wayne.tracker@exxonmobil.com is part of the company's email system and was put in place for secure and expedited communications between select senior company officials and the former chairman for a broad range of business-related topics. Okay, so we're to believe that the point of this email address was for secure and expedited communications. It turns out that Wayne Tracker, aka Rex Tillerson, would use that email address to talk about whether or not certain representations about climate change-related issues would be made public to shareholders or not. Whether an email address is or is not secure is a separate issue from whether a person is using their real name or not. And why are communications expedited when you use an alias? The argument from ExxonMobil to answer that question is, well, his Rex Tillerson's regular email was so widely known that it was just filled up with stuff. So he set up a separate email for expedited communications. But the real issue is, again, if there's nothing sinister here, why didn't ExxonMobil disclose the existence of this email and the communications it was used for when the communications were initially subpoenaed instead of waiting to see if investigators would find it? As usual, Pat, the action itself is not the most incriminating thing. It's the obvious attempts to hide, obfuscate, or distort that are problematic.
I certainly don't think it's incriminating, especially because he wasn't a government official at the time.
Sure.
But the strange part here is that he must have been using this alias so he can argue against climate science as we know it, that humanity is obviously making an impact on it, because he's going to have to resort to junk claims that it can be easily rebuked. And he's not going to be able to defend himself once people call him out on it. So he wants to use an alias to hide his own identity.
Well, that also is the idea. That's sort of like a layer 2 idea, which is if there was the thought that at some point these communications would be made public, they didn't want either anti-science claims or other problematic claims to be directly attached to the name Rex Tillerson. But again, my primary question is, if there was nothing to hide here, why did they try to hide it? And if indeed Rex Tillerson is wrapped up in the conspiracy to prevent investors and the public from knowing about the damage that ExxonMobil was doing to the environment knowingly, now the key word, this would be fraud on a large scale. And it sort of sounds like the perfect guy to be Trump's top diplomat around the world, right? That there's actually nothing surprising in finding out this about Rex Tillerson and then being told this is Trump's top diplomat. It kind of makes perfect sense.
And of course, he got the Friendship Award from Russia, so you have that angle covered, and then you also have the corporate crony capitalist angle as well.
Oh, he's checking off every box that you would expect to be checked off if you were going to be involved in one of the most vulture-like kleptocratic administrations that we've seen.